Hey everyone, welcome to another Facebook Live here at the Toronto Zoo. My name is Amanda, and one of the keepers here in Indo that help take care of our Sumatran orangutans who we'll be hanging out with today. Thank you for joining us. Here we are trying to still continue our mission to connect people, animals, and conservation for the fight, fighting extinction. Now, if you guys don't know, this is Puppe. So she is our oldest orangutan here at the Toronto Zoo. She's also the second oldest orangutan in North America. So she's 53 years old. And we do have the oldest one living to the age of 60 so far. So her name is Inji, and she's currently living at the Oregon Zoo. So these two girls are one of the founders of the orangutan population here in North America. So they're pretty important to all the work that we have been doing here. And if you guys have been here before, you may have seen more on exhibit. So we do still have 6 orangutans here at the Toronto Zoo. We have 3 adult females, and their names are Puppe. She's our 53-year-old, currently out here. We also have Sakali, who's a 27-year-old female, and we have Ramai, who is a 34-year-old female. Now in 2006, all of those females gave birth to an offspring. So Poopy had Bude, so he is our 14-year-old male. Sakali had a son as well, and his name is Kambali. And then Ramai had a daughter, and her name is Jinga. So these guys, prior to 2010, these guys did all live out here on exhibit, but that was a special circumstance. So these guys are considered a solitary species. So in the wild, these guys generally do live by themselves. We find that females often do not get along well, but we also find if we have an adult male in captivity, he keeps all the ladies in line, keeps the peace amongst the group, and that's how we were able to house them all together. Now, unfortunately, we did lose our male in 2010. So this was a very stressful time for our females. One, because they all lost their male that made them feel safe and secure. And 2, they all had an offspring at about the age of 4 that they were very protective over. So we started seeing a lot of signs of stress and avoidance behaviors amongst these females. So keepers decided they were trying to tell us that they didn't want to live together anymore. So we did separate all of them with their offspring. Now these guys are special in that they raise their young second longest to humans. So they will raise them between 8 and 12 years. So they do invest a lot of time in them. Now they have a very slow reproductive rate. So they only have a baby every 8 or 9 years. So when they have that new baby, if they had a son previously, they're going to kick him out. He's off on his own now to live, and she's going to start focusing on that new baby. If she had a daughter previously though, that daughter's going to stick around and overlap for about another 4 years to make it up to 12 years that she's hanging out with mom, because she's going to watch mom have that baby, and she's going to help mom raise that baby so she can learn how to have a baby of her own. So now we do have our sons separated from their moms because they are sexually mature, but we do have Ramai and Jinga still currently living together. Now we do participate in the species survival plan, so I know other keepers have currently talked about that. So the SSP, so there's a committee for orangutans, and they make recommendations on who should breed with who. So we have gotten a couple of recommendations so far. So Booty, so Poopy's son here, is going to stay here and become our breeding male. We have gotten a recommendation for the daughter Jinga, so she has been recommended to be matched up with a male in a zoo in the States. So she will likely be leaving us within the next year to year and a half. And then we're still waiting on a recommendation for Kambali. Now Kambali is related to all of our females here, so he doesn't have any breeding purpose currently. So we're waiting to see if he's going to be recommended to go to another zoo to be matched up for breeding purposes, or if they'll send us a female to be matched up with him here. So as you can see, Poopy's working at that cage feeder, so there is food hidden in there. And although this exhibit doesn't always look natural, we are trying to exhibit these natural behaviors of foraging and working for their food. So you can see there's always at any time balls, boxes, fire hose weaves, barrels, things like that hanging up. So we do try to hide their food in there, and they have to manipulate these items to get the food out. So in the wild, these guys eat more of an omnivorous diet. Some people will call them frugivores, which means fruit eaters, because 60% of their diet alone in the wild is fruit. Now, a lot of the fruit that they do eat has a hard shell or a spiky casing on it, so they do have to use either certain tools or techniques to get the food open. So we are trying to manipulate that type of behavior. So things like they may use a rock to smash something open, or they may knock it onto something else. They may use a stick to pry it open or to get food out of a small hole. And sometimes they do use leaves if it has a sharp spiky casing on it to protect their hands as a glove. So we do have food in there. We also have some oatmeal in one of the gunite feeders, so they have to scoop that out with a stick from the top, so you can see great feeders on those. So this is mimicking either honey in a beehive's nest or termites in a termite mound. Now here at the Toronto Zoo, we do base their diet around a monkey chow. So it's kind of like dog food but made for primates. So it's a dry material, it's a completely balanced diet, but we get to supplement it with a ton of fruits and vegetables for these guys. And our nutrition center sends us a lot of different variety of foods to kind of mix things up, make it more fun for our animals. So other things that we get are peanuts and nuts, seeds that we can scatter, or we also get things that we can smear. So things like peanut butter, honey, jams. We also have popcorn, so things that can be really fun for them and that they really like to work for. We also use a lot of the fruit for their training, so they do prefer things that are sweet, so things like fruits or juices is what they will work for. And these guys do participate in a positive reinforcement training program. So these guys voluntarily come up to participate. If they don't want to participate that day, they don't have to, but that has never been the case for me. They love to be able to work and earn things that they love. So behaviors that these guys do offer, they will open up their mouth. So this allows us to get a good look at their teeth. We can take pictures of it if we wanted to send it to others to look at. So this has been helpful in a couple ways. So one is we were able to take a picture of Ramai's teeth and we sent it to a dentist, and they were able to diagnose that she had a cavity, and we were able to anesthetize her and deal with that. Also, we do take that data when we see that any of our kids have lost any teeth. Or they are starting to get their adult teeth in, and we are sharing that data with people in the wild. So at the rehabilitation centers where they're confiscating orangutans, we are giving them data so that they can learn when they lose their teeth and when they're gaining their teeth, so they can better estimate the age of these orangutans. So this is helping them gauge how old they are, because sometimes when they're in care of humans, we will underfeed them and they look malnourished. And unfortunately they look younger than they are, and other times they will overfeed them and they look obese and they look older than they are. So this is allowing them to gauge where they should be developmentally, so they can start rehabilitating them properly to reintroduce them back into the wild. Other behaviors, they'll put their belly up to the mesh, so we can do an ultrasound if we need to. They'll offer us their upper arms and their thighs for voluntary muscular injections. So if we do need to give them an antibiotic shot, a vaccination, or if we do need to anesthetize them for a larger procedure, they will do that voluntarily rather than us having to try to dart them, which is always risky that we miss our shot or we don't know if we got all the medication in. So it's good that they're participating in that, and it's less stressful for both the animals and the vet staff. These guys will also put their arm into what we call a blood sleeve. So it is protecting their hand so that they can't grab us, but we do have access to their veins, and we are able to get blood draws from these guys, which is really exciting. And also these guys, we can hold a cup up to the mesh, and they are on cue, trained to give us a urine sample. So this has been really helpful for us. One, we can track the females cycle, so we know when they are cycling and when the best time is to introduce them to Booty, our male, which we have done a little bit of introductions with. There's also a student here working from the University of Guelph, and she's working on ovulation kits and whether they're applicable to orangutans, so that we can better guesstimate when they're ovulating, as well as if we want to do any artificial insemination, we can do that. And also we are collecting it excuse me, from our males. So our males, they do develop cheek pads, which we can talk about later, but we don't really know why or what makes them develop. So we've always thought that it is a testosterone-driven phenomenon. So we are collecting urine from those boys, and we are sending this data to a student at Boston University, and then she's just trying to see what's really driving that. So it's been really exciting. We've been doing that for over a year, and we have been able to measure Booty's cheek pads. So we've gotten 6.5 centimeters of growth within the last year. So we know that he is starting to become a male, and hopefully within the next year he becomes a full-grown male, and we can really start pushing forward with these introductions. And fingers crossed, our whole goal is to get more of these orangutans out here, if he can kind of make everyone feel safe again living together.
So we have a lot of great questions coming in, Amanda. Someone asked, actually, do they like to play in the water?
So they do like the water. We do see them coming out. Sacalier, I think, likes to come out here and dunk her head in the water when it gets really hot out here. They will also come and dunk their blankets in the water, and they will drag it back with them in the summertime, and they'll just drape it over them to keep themselves cool. If anything falls in the water, they'll definitely kind of reach out to grab it. They are not fearful of the water, but they definitely do respect the water. These guys cannot swim. With their body composition, they do have a lot of muscle and not as much fat as us, so they're not as buoyant, as well as they're very top heavy. They have arms twice as long as their legs, and they have very broad shoulders, very small waist and legs, so that disproportionate weight distribution does not allow these guys to swim or float. So these guys will sink if they go in the water. But in the back, we give them the hose. We spray the hose into their pens, and they get to play with that. They love bubbles in that water too, so they will put their hands in the water and agitate it to build the bubbles up. They love the bubbles. They even eat the bubbles. I don't know why they taste so good, but they love water to play with it, but definitely respect it. Really cool videos out there of orangutans in the wild. How smart they are is people will tie their boats up on shore, and orangutans will come and steal their boats and take them away. So they're super smart that way.
Another question we're getting is, do they vocalize? Do they ever blow raspberries?
We do get them blowing raspberries. Generally they are a very quiet species. So these guys are solitary. So in the wild, they generally do live by themselves. But they definitely can be social. So they will sometimes vocalize, but they don't need to talk, or they don't need to communicate as much as we do. We also have a lot of people saying that their facial expressions look sad. It's just they don't have the muscles to smile or show a lot of facial expressions or emotions that way. They do have that.
And another question we have is can you tell the males and females apart just by looking at them?
Yes, that's a good question. So when they're a juvenile male, they often do still look like a female, but we're finding usually between the ages of 14 to 17 is when we think that testosterone is kicking in and making those males develop those cheek pads. So males are the only ones that do develop the cheek pads. And we find males will get twice the size of females. So males can get over 250 pounds, where on average a female in captivity is about 110 pounds. So a big size difference. And all of the orangutans do have a throat pouch, but the males will enlarge in as they get older, and that's helping them with their vocalization. So males are the only ones that have a vocalization called the long call. And they're going to use that call, calling out into the rainforest, either calling out looking for a female to breed with, or if another male has come into his territory and he wants him to leave, that can be a threatening sound asking him to move on his way.
Another great question. What is their lifespan and how old are our orangutans here at the zoo?
Awesome. So in the wild, these guys would live for about 35 to 40 years. So in captivity, we're starting to see them live a lot longer. Puppy here is 53 years old, and the oldest one in captivity currently is 60 years old. On record, the oldest one was Puan. She was 62 years old from the Perth Zoo in Australia. So the more that we're learning about these, the better care these guys are getting, the longer they are living. But they're always living longer in captivity because they don't have a lot of the hard life that the wild orangutans do. So these guys are losing their habitat out there. And then they come through times where there's a lot of famine or there may be a drought. They are fighting with other males for breeding rights with other males in that area. They come across things like parasites and stuff. And we have vets here that work with our animals all the time. So these guys are in really good health. So definitely they are going to live longer here in captivity.
Do orangutans know sign language, and how intelligent are they?
We have never taught any of our orangutans sign language. There are definitely facilities that have done this before. There are a couple of them. I definitely believe that they could learn how to do it. They definitely have their own language. Like somebody was asking with the raspberries, a lot of them will raspberry at the keepers when they want something. So if we walk by them with the hose and they want to drink from the hose, they'll do that. Poopy has more of a puckered lip look, that she looks like she's giving a little duck kiss, and that's kind of her begging behavior, like she wants a snack. They definitely have body postures and stuff like that that they can give us to communicate. But these guys are definitely smart. Even when us keepers are talking to them, we often ask them to grab blankets that they use at nighttime to nest with, and we'll ask them to bring them with them when we're shifting them to another pen. So we'll just say, go get your blankets, and they go get them. So they definitely understand English, even though they can't speak it with us. There's just lots of other ways that we can communicate with them. But I definitely believe if we were able to invest the time in teaching these guys sign language, they would pick it up for sure.
How can we help wild orangutans?
Good one. So the biggest threat to these guys is loss of habitat. So the biggest threat right now is we're cutting it down to make way for oil palm plantations. So if we can just look over here, we do have an oil palm tree. So this is the tree that we are cutting down the rainforest to plant. Now, what it produces is a fruit that is just a type of vegetable oil. It's in 50% of the products that we buy at our drugstores and supermarkets every day. So a lot of our things, such as processed foods, so our cereals, our breads, our baked goods, a lot of our snacks and chocolate bars have palm oil in them. A lot of our personal care items as well, such as shampoos, soaps, household cleaning detergents, as well as dog food too. So there's it's out there in a lot of our things, and people have the connotation that it's a really bad vegetable oil. It's actually very efficient. Now this produces fruit year round, so we can continuously harvest fruit off of it throughout the year. So we get 8 to 10 times the amount of vegetable oil per acre as something like the soybean plant. Now, if we were to boycott palm oil, we are going to have to replace it with a different type of vegetable oil. So we would end up boycotting it. We're going to go to South America. We're going to clear 8 to 10 times the amount of land to get that much soybean oil to plant there, and we're just passing this problem on to somebody else. So what we're doing is we're asking people to start using sustainable palm oil. So that means that it's regulated by an organization, and we're doing it safely to protect the animals and the people and the environment of that community. So ways that you guys can help save the orangutans is start buying that sustainable palm oil. So ways you guys can find it, if you do have a device that you can download an app, there's an app called Sustainable Palm Oil Shopping. It was created by the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. It does have a green and white logo with a hanging orangutan on it. So all you have to do is type in the name of the product. It's going to give you a green light if it's using 100% sustainable palm oil. It's going to give you a yellow light if it's using some sustainable palm oil, and their goal is to be 100%, but they haven't quite reached that yet. And an orange light if they haven't made much effort at all. Another really easy way that you guys can shop for sustainable palm oil, if you do check out our palm oil shopping challenge right here on this A-frame board, it does ask you guys, when you go shopping next, if you guys can switch out products that you normally buy for any of the products on this list. Now all of these companies are using 100% sustainable palm oil, so this is the best way that we can help save these guys. If you do not find the product that you guys like to purchase, definitely write to them. We have a lot of buying power, so if you guys tell them what you want, they want to please their customers. So put that pressure on them to join the RSPO, which is the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil, and then they can get on the road to helping these guys out in the wilds.
I have a few more questions here. Some people are asking, does Poopy have a favorite keeper?
I think she has a couple keepers that she's more tolerant of, but I think she's actually getting a lot better with it. So Poopy definitely is one that you have to gain her trust. So when you start working with her, she's definitely going to test you, but when you've proven yourself to her, she will definitely start working better with you and more cooperatively. But Poopy has a respiratory issue, so we have been doing nebulizer training with her. So she does, it's kind of like an asthma inhaler that's powered, so it continuously gives her medication, which has helped her so much, and she's doing so much better now. She used to have a cough that we haven't seen in a very long time, and her breathing just sounds a lot more at ease. So all the keepers are participating in this, and I think she loves us being able to sit there and spend time with her. That usually takes close to 20 minutes that she just gets one-on-one time with the keepers, and we're just sitting there feeding her fruits, all cut up in small pieces just to keep her interest while she's sitting there participating in the training program. So she's definitely starting to work a lot more with a lot of the keepers, and I think she's just a happier orangutan for being able to work with more of us.
We're getting some questions about the building of our new outdoor orangutan exhibit. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So we're super excited about it. We are hoping, we do have it out for bid, so we're looking for a contractor to start. We have finished all of our plans for it. So once we get that contractor going, we can start building. Our goal is to have it up for the summer of 2021, so hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly. But it's going to be really exciting for our orangutans. Hopefully by that time, Booty's a full-grown male, and we'll have more of them living together so that they can all go out at the same time. If that isn't the case though, we have built it so that there is going to be 2 sections out there. So there's going to be O-lines with towers. So there's going to be a couple towers where they can only be on the O-lines. They can't come down to the ground, and then there's going to be some on exhibit that can still climb up into different O-lines, but they'll never be able to get at each other if they're not currently living together. So at least there'll be more opportunities to have them out on exhibit, and then we still will have this indoor exhibit, so we will be able to swap them up and everyone can take turns, and it's just going to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more flexible for us and the orangutans to work with.
Another question we're getting here is, how strong are they? Are they dangerous to people?
We do consider them dangerous. So we do label animals as dangerous and non-dangerous here at the Toronto Zoo. So these are one of our animals that are considered dangerous. So you do have to have more experience as a keeper before you can start working with them. And we do never go in with them. But our orangutans, of the 6 of them, 5 of them have been born here. They're very comfortable with us. They are, very cooperative with us. But still, we would never go in with them just due to their strength and unpredictability. We have to still remember that these guys are living beings. They have their own thoughts and emotions, and sometimes, it's not a good day. So we never want to put ourselves at jeopardy with that. But we do generally say they're about 7 times stronger than humans. And 1, they do have more muscle than us, but 2, their muscles are attached at different points on their arms, for example, so they do make better levers. It's a lot easier for them to hang, their body weight. You have to remember that male is 250 pounds and he's swinging through trees and moving through, on these big branches. So they are very strong to hold up their own body weight, but it is a different mechanism that they can use.
And we have many people asking, how do we tell our orangutans apart?
If you started working with them, it's just like people. They all have very, very distinct faces, but you could use a number of things. They all have different body shapes, body sizes. They all have different personalities. They all walk, they have different gaits, but just looking at their faces, they're very, very different.
And do we share DNA with orangutans?
We do. So these guys are considered a great ape. So great apes include the orangutans, the chimpanzees, the gorillas, the bonobos, and it also includes humans. So we are all a part of the great ape family, and we actually share 97% of our DNA with the orangutans. So we are very closely related.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for today.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us.